If you're thinking about investing in a property in San Diego, this video's for you. I'm going to give you the 5 things you need to consider when you're buying an investment property here in San Diego. My name is Kyle Whistle with Whistle Realty Group, your guide to living in San Diego. I'm one of those rare born and raised San Diegans. I've lived here for my 40-year life, and I've lived all over San Diego County in a ton of different areas. So I got a good perspective on things you need to know when you are looking to live in San Diego. But today we're going to talk a little bit differently and talk about investing here in San Diego. I personally bought my first investment property in San Diego at the age of 20. Grew up in a real estate family. Real estate business has been run here in the family name since 1979. So even before I was born. So really was born into and raised in a real estate family. And luckily my family encouraged me to purchase a property while I was in college. And back at that time, if that was in the early 2000s, it was kind of a weird time to be buying property, because at that point, you just put a mirror under your nose. If you could fog the mirror, they would give you a loan. And what I mean by that is if you had a pulse, you could get a real estate loan. It was kind of crazy. So, bought my first place in 20. I've owned a ton of rental properties all across San Diego over the years. I own property both in San Diego, outside of San Diego, really all around the country at this point. So I want to just share some of the things that I've learned with you, some of the things I think you should consider when you're looking to buy an investment property here in San Diego. And number 1 on the list is you really got to decide what type of property it is that you want to invest in. You could do something as simple as buying a condo or buying a single family home that you want to rent out, right? That would be the very, very basics of it. Then you could get a little bit more creative where you could buy a condo or a single family home, and you maybe, instead of long-term renting it, which would be a traditional sign of 6-month, 12-month lease, something of that sort. Maybe you want to do short-term rentals, which is something very popular here in San Diego. San Diego, again, we talk about this a lot on the channels. This is known as America's finest city. It's got some of the best weather in the entire country, and people are visiting San Diego year-round. So in the wintertime, we have a lot of snowbirds, right? People that are coming from Canada, from the East Coast, areas or up in the north, where it's very snowy, and they want to get the heck out of the snow because, fun fact, it doesn't snow in the city of San Diego. Out in the mountain areas, there's some areas you can catch some snow that are still part of San Diego County, but for the most part, it never snows here. So a lot of people like to vacation here even in the winter months. And then in the summer months, we get a lot of people vacationing coming from some of the hotter desert type climates like Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada, where their temperatures are 100, 110, 120 degrees. They want to get away from the heat. They want to come and sit by the beach where it's 75 and sunny. And so we get a lot of people coming from the desert climates as well in the summertime. So the good thing with short-term rentals here in San Diego is it's not as seasonal as other places are. Like, for example, Phoenix, right? Nobody wants to go short-term rent something in Phoenix in the summer because it's hot. It's no fun being there. San Diego is a little bit more sustainable for year-round short-term rentals. So that could be really strong. The thing to know if you're going short-term, reach out to us. There's a phone number down below so you can call or text us. We can help you determine what areas you can and cannot short-term rent in. There are some cities within San Diego County that are pro short-term rental, and there are others that have completely shut down all short-term rentals. So before you even start looking, if you're thinking about going the short-term rental route, make sure to reach out to us so we can guide you to the right areas where that is feasible. For the most part, houses, as long as they're not in an HOA, you can typically short-term rent those if they're in a city that allows it. Condos, not only do you have to worry about the city approval, but you have to worry about the HOA approval as well. A lot of HOAs do not allow short-term rentals. And when we say short-term, we're talking under 30 days. So that's kind of the distinction between short-term and long-term rentals. So again, reach out to us. We'd love to just kind of guide you through that process. Now, the other thing to think about is maybe you want to go into multi-units. I got my career, the first property I ever bought was a multi-unit property. And when we talk multi-unit, there's 2 different types of multi-unit properties we're going to refer to. One is going to be properties that are between 2 and 4 units. When the reason that we separate 2 to 4 units out from 5 plus units is 2 to 4 units, you're still getting a residential loan on that. So the beauty of that is that you can buy those properties with 20% down. When you go to 5 plus units, the down payment is going to get a little bit more complicated. The loan, when you go 5 plus units, it's now deemed a commercial property. And when you go into commercial lending, the down payment is going to vary drastically based on the income of the property. So if you're buying something where the rents are super low, you could be looking at 40, 50% down with a commercial loan. The lowest I've really ever seen on a commercial loan is down to about 25%. Seems to be 35 plus or minus 5% is about the norm. So you're putting significantly less down when you're in a 2 to 4 unit property than if you're in a 5 plus unit property. So just keep that in mind. Also, when you start going over 5 units, if you get up to 20 plus units, at that point, a lot of times you're talking about having on-site property management, a lot more complexities to that. But if you can have all of your units in one place as opposed to 20, houses all over the county, management gets a little bit easier. So keep all that in mind. A lot of options here in San Diego. You could go short term, you could go long term, you could go single unit, you could go multi-unit. Either way, our team's got you covered. Second thing on the list, since we touched on this a little bit, is the management side of it. You're going to have to decide, do you want to be the person who manages, or what we would refer to as self-management? That's where you're the person who's running the ads, you're the person who's finding tenants, you're the person who's getting the place cleaned and repairs made and doing the accounting, collecting the rents, evicting people when you need to. Is that something that you want to handle, or do you want to hire a professional management company to do that for you? What you're going to find here in San Diego is the rates that these companies charge are going to vary quite a bit. And we can help guide you and connect you with various companies that can help. If you're looking at going with single units, you're typically going to be in about the 8 to 10% range is what we see for the management cost. And so when we say 8 to 10%, that's typically 8 to 10% of the collected rents that the unit brings in. So if you buy a house that rents for $5,000 a month, yes, houses are like $5,000 plus a month here in San Diego. That's the cost of living here. So let's assume you have a house that rents for $5,000 and you have a 10% management fee. You're going to be paying $500 a month for a management company to take care of everything for you so that you don't have to deal with it. So 8 to 10% is pretty normal of what you're going to see on the long-term side. If you go short-term, where now you have people coming for 2-3 days at a time, a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, those churn over a lot more. So the management fee is going to go higher. Most of what I'm seeing here in San Diego is in the 25 to 30% range. So the management percentage is significantly higher. So keep that in mind when you're analyzing the numbers. If you're using a site like AirDNA, AirDNA is a really good website to help you get an idea of what a house could rent for on a short-term basis. Make sure you're factoring in that if you're hiring a management company, you're going to be giving about 25 to 30% of the rent that comes in back to the management company. So when you're analyzing your numbers, make sure that you're factoring that in. Again, either way you want to go, short-term, long-term, we are here to be your guide, and we will connect you with our preferred management companies. We do not personally do the management. I have a great short-term rental management company that I'll connect you with, and a great long-term rental management company that I can connect you with. So either way, we've got you covered. Again, phone number here, just call or text. That'll connect you with my team, and we can guide you through that process and all the things that you need to know. Number 3 on the list is going to be the location. Where do you want to have your investment property here in San Diego? What you're going to find is the pricing on your investment property and the rent that the property brings in is going to be very similar to what you're going to find in home values. The closer to the coast you get, the price gets higher. Further inland you get, the price gets lower. What you're going to also find traditionally is that the numbers or the return on investment tends to be a little bit better inland because the prices are lower, and the rents, while the rents are lower, proportionately, they're not that much lower. For example, we could look at the city of Santee, somewhere that I personally used to live. You could still go buy a home in Santee today for around $700,000. That home you buy for $700,000 is going to rent out for about $3,500 a month. So That's about 0.5% of what you're going to pay for it. Now, if we go coastal, let's say we're going to go into Pacific Beach. That same home that's $700,000 in Santee is probably going to be about $1.5 million in Pacific Beach. Now the rent, which was $3,500 in Santee, if we go to Pacific Beach, the rent's going to be higher, but it's not going to be twice as high. You're not going to get $7,000 a month in rent. You're probably going to be at $5,000, maybe $6,000 on the high end. Therefore, you could see that the percentage, right, the rent to price ratio is going to be a little bit more attractive if you go inland to like a Santee versus coastal like a Pacific Beach. So you got to kind of decide there what's more important to you. Do you want to have the better numbers? Do you want to have the more prime location? That's going to be a decision that you need to make. So keep that in mind. Also, your vacancy rates are going to vary a little bit, where coastal versus East County versus North County, South Bay. Those are all going to vary. And if you want to explore specific areas, again, reach out to the team. We can give you a report that can let you know what the vacancy rate is in the area that you're looking in. So we'd love to give you a report to help you in making that decision. Also, if you're going to do short-term renting, logically, the places that are closer to the beach tend to be the units that are rented more frequently. The units, as you come inland, they're going to be rented a little bit less frequency. Also, the average daily rate or average nightly rate, whatever you prefer to call it, is going to be higher closer to the coast, lower as you go inland a little bit more. So if you're thinking short term, tend to be a little bit better toward the coast. You are going to have more competition though, so keep that in mind. If you have something, we'll just keep going with this Santee Pacific Beach thing. Not a lot of short-term rentals in Santee, so it's kind of unique. So when you have something in an area where there's no competition, you're the only show in town. So if somebody is looking in that area, maybe that works out in your favor. But the reason there's nobody else in your area is probably because there's not a lot of demand in that area. Again, AirDNA is a great source to also not only help you figure what your average daily rate is going to be, but also to help you with what to expect for occupancy. So make sure that you use that tool. Next up on the list, we're going to go into financing. So touched on this a little bit at the beginning. You're going to need to determine what kind of financing you want to use on these properties. A lot of it's going to depend on the property type. So if you're coming in and you're buying a single family home or a condo, and it's purely as an investment, you're going to be looking 20 to 25% down. If you're going to 2 to 4 units, same thing. You're going to be in that 20 to 25% down. But let me throw this out there. If you're going to live in one of the units and rent out the additional units, now you could actually get what we refer to as owner-occupied financing, where you could do it for as little as 0% down. If you're in the military or qualify for a VA loan, you could actually buy a 4-unit property for $2 million in San Diego with $0 down. Pretty crazy, huh? So that is a really fun fact to know. If you're going to live in one of the units, you could buy, if you qualify for a VA loan with $0 down. Even if you don't qualify for that VA loan, you could do a conventional loan or an FHA loan with 3 to 3.5% down if you're going to occupy one of the units. So that's on a 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit. Key is you got to occupy one of the units. One of the cool things is, let's say it's that 4-unit, $2 million property. They're going to take the income from the additional 3 units and they're going to help add that in to your income number when they're factoring in your debt to income ratio for the loan. So that will help you qualify for more money. So definitely reach out to us. We can help you explore that. If you go the commercial route where you go in 5+ units, once you get over 5 units, they have a whole different way that they're going to factor that down payment. As I mentioned, you're typically going to be about 35% down, plus or minus 5 to 10%. It really depends on the numbers. One of the things that they'll use is what's called a debt service coverage ratio. We'll put a link down below so you can do a little bit more research on what that is. I don't want to make your head spin with talking all those numbers on this video, but just understand that it is going to be based a lot more off of the rent from the units as opposed to you and your credit score. Things change a little bit in commercial. Either way you want to go, I've got great residential lenders and commercial lenders. We'll get you dialed in and figure out what's going to be best for you. Last thing on the list, number 5, and this is a really important one, is you've got to decide, do you want to buy something that is already occupied, already, updated, and just boom, hands off. You don't have to touch it. Or do you want to buy something that's got some upside to it? When I say upside, that could be something, right? We all watched HGTV. We all love the show, right? All the shows on there. Are you looking for something that might be somewhat of a fixer-upper? And now there's a couple different ways to think about fixer-uppers. Maybe you're buying something that's vacant. You want to come in and update it and then rent it out. Great. Or maybe you want to buy something where the rents are severely under market. I bought a property a few years ago where the rents were, no joke, 1/3 of what they should have been. People were paying $500 a month for 1 bedrooms in San Diego, like 2 years ago. It was crazy. It was an out-of-state owner who had, I think the girl inherited it from her dad. She just never touched it and just left the rents at the same thing her dad had the rents at years and years ago. So I bought this property, $500 a month in rent. And not only did dad not raise the rent, dad didn't do anything to the property either. But the tenants probably never told dad there were problems because they were worried if they tell dad that there's a problem with the property, dad's going to be like, oh, we should raise the rent. So I bought this thing at $500, 3 units, $500 a month in rent each. So initially the numbers or the income sucked. It was a bad investment when you look at it on paper. But what I realized is these things are all under rented. There's a lot of upside in the rents. So I bought the property. I told all the tenants, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to fix your unit up. It's going to be amazing, or it's going to be brand new, basically flip each unit, new kitchen, new bathrooms, the whole nine. But it comes with a catch. The rent is now $1,650 a month. And 2 of the tenants left and said, no way, I can't afford that. But they enjoyed their $500 a month ride. And the third tenant was like, great, you know what? It's been a fun ride at $500. I know this is worth $1,650 a month. I'm good with it. Go ahead and rehab my unit. So we rehabbed all 3 of the units. We kept 1 tenant. We brought 2 new tenants in. And I now increased the monthly income or the total rent from that property by over 3x from what I initially purchased it for. So maybe that's in your wheelhouse. Maybe you're okay with something that has some upside in it. You're willing to put a little bit of work into it. So you got to decide what's going to be best for you. So if you want to explore something like this, you want to maybe see a few deals that are out there in today's market and kind of figure out exactly what you could get in San Diego, give us a call, shoot us a text at the number down below. That will connect you with my team. And again, our goal is to be your guide to moving to San Diego, or in this case, investing in San Diego. So would love the opportunity to help you, guide you through this process, make the decision that's going to be right for you and for your family. Or if you're just thinking about moving to San Diego yourself, you're like, I just wanted to learn about investing, but actually want to live there. We can help with that too. We got you covered all the way around. I got connections for property management, for lending, commercial, residential, short-term, long-term. I got you covered, right? 40 years here in San Diego, got connections, and I want to help guide you through that process. So reach out to us. If you enjoyed the video today, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, let YouTube know that you enjoyed it. If you got questions, you can throw those down in the comments as well. If you want to get notified every time we drop a new episode of the show, hit the subscribe button and the little bell. YouTube will take care of the rest. With that said, I'm Kyle Whistle with Whistle Realty Group, your guide to living in San Diego. Thanks for watching.